Welcome to our weekly Tuesday class in Chasidus in English. We started learning the discourse called the Essence of Chasidus a few weeks ago, and today we're going to learn chapter 3, Gimel. In the previous lesson we learned about the important role that Chasidus plays in the Torah. That there is a central point which that really captures the whole idea of what Chasidus is. What is that central point? That central point is drawing down of a new light, a new luminary, from the innermost part of the Keter, of Hashem's holy crown, so to speak, and even moreover, in the inner part of Atik, which is really the ultimate, the essence of Hashem. That idea, Shalom Damian. That idea that we learned about last week applies not only to Chasidus. It applies also to all parts of the Torah. That what? That there are many different advantages and greatnesses by learning the different parts of the Torah. But nonetheless, there is a core, there is something essential which is the central theme of the Torah. Of course, there are other advantages, but all of those are only an outcome of the central theme. Let's read the page 29 in the Hebrew, and then we'll go to the English. Ha'amur le'el b'nagei Torah Chasidut, that which we said earlier in connection to Chasidus in general, hu bichlalut, is in a general note. B'chol chalkei Torah, in all parts of the Torah. HaTorah kolelet kol haminei shlemut u'ma'alot hanimtzaot ba'olam. The Torah includes within itself all of the completions and the advantages and the greatnesses that are found in the world. Here is a square bracket. HaNACHLAOT bichlal b'inyanei ha'olam katan hu adam l'ma'alot ha'mochin u'ma'alot ha'midot. That in the small, there's the macro, the world, and the micro world is the individual, the human being. And that can be, the qualities of a human being can be divided, generally speaking, into two parts. The intellect of the person and the emotion of the person. That pretty much makes up the being of the individual. Bahanagot musariyot umidot tovot, with moral behavior and good character. Harei hamishpatim v'darkei hamusar shebatorah, the Mesechet Avot v'kadomeh, hem tachlit hatov ha'emet. That which is written in the tractate of the ethics of our fathers, of the Musar of the Torah, are the epitome of good and truth. V'chol shitot hamusar shabadu b'nei adam melibam, and all of the other types of quote-unquote morality that people made up, me'oravot hen tov v'ra, are mixed with good and bad, emet v'sheker, truth and lies. V'chelkei hatov sheyeshnam b'chol achat meshitot mikoram u'b'torah. Whatever good there is in any of the other systems is contained in the Torah. Let's read the English. Page 28. Torah, the epitome of perfection. What has been stated above concerning Chasidus also applies in general to all parts of the Torah. For the Torah encompasses all manner of perfection and quality to be found in the world. Generally, these virtues are divided as illustrated in man, who is a miniature world, into attributes of intellect and those of emotions, character traits. Now, in regards to the latter, to moral behavior and good character, the law and ethical precepts of Torah contained, for example, in the tractate Avot, Ethics of Our Fathers, are the epitome of goodness and truth. All other systems of morality, however, which men by themselves have contrived, mix together good and evil, truth and falsehood. And furthermore, the source of those portions of good that each one of these systems contains in the Torah, whatever good they have, is connected to the Torah. There's a very interesting introduction by the Alter Rebbe to the Tanya. In most books, the introduction is not necessarily part of the book per se. It's kind of introduction, gives you an overview, perhaps personal remarks, but it's not necessarily part of the book and not necessarily meant to be quote-unquote learned. However, when it comes to the Tanya, the introduction to the Tanya is pretty much part and parcel of the Tanya itself. The first portion of Tanya is called Likutei Amarim, and though there are 53 chapters in Likutei Amarim, and if you include the introductory chapter, which is the introduction, we have a total of 54, which, by the way, corresponds to the 54 Parshiot of the Torah. We just started learning this week Vayikra, the beginning of the third book of Moshe of Leviticus, of the Korbanot. And so there is a total of 54 Parshas in the Torah, and by Chasidim we consider the Tanya to be the Torah Shebichtav, quote unquote, the written Torah of Chasidus, the most fundamental manuscript of Chasidus, especially Chabad Chasidus. And so there's an interesting comparison between the two. Also, Bereshis is considered a general parsha. So you have the general introductory parsha, and then you have the 53, which is Gan, which is a garden of Torah. In the introduction, the Alter Rebbe explains something very interesting, which is very much connected to the subject that we're talking about today. He says, this book that I am about to write, or that you're about to read, is different than any other book. Because usually when a person writes a book, he doesn't know who's going to read the book. And it's almost impossible as a human being to know who's going to read it, and therefore to write it, that they should be able to internalize it, each one on their own level. It says, for example, and he quotes this, what I'm saying now, in the introduction. It says that when Moshe was going to appoint a leader to bring Am Yisrael into Israel, he appointed Yoshua. And Hashem told Moshe how to choose a leader. He said he should... The Torah says in Parashat Pinchas, it says, Ish asher ruach bo, a man that the spirit is in him. What does that mean? So the explanation is, Chazal teach us, our sages teach us, sheyachol lahaloch neged rucho shel kol echad ve'echad. What kind of spirit is this? He's able to tune in to every person's individual ruach, neshama, spirit that's in them. And that's something which is unique. That's called a leader. A leader is not someone who can just preach from above, goes right over the heads of everyone, and they leave the room the same way or more confused than the way they went in the room. A leader is someone who is able to speak to every single person, even speaking to a crowd. But everyone should be able to take whatever they're saying in an individual way. And that's called Moshe. Moshe has the general neshama of everyone in his generation. And therefore Hashem guides him how to find another leader to take him over, to continue Moshe's leadership. And that's why the Zohar says that every generation has a Moshe. In Hebrew or in Aramaic, It's called Itpashtuta, the spreading, the Moshe, B'chol Dara V'Dara. In Hebrew, it's B'chol Dor V'Dor, very similar to Aramaic, in every generation. So there is a Moshe in every generation. What does that mean? That clearly means that we're talking about an individual who is able to connect on a deep level to everyone. And in the case of the Tanya, that the Alter Rebbe is giving is writing a soul book, if you can. A book which is neshama. It's not just technical words preaching. But when you read a chapter of Tanya, you see yourself in that chapter. You connect yourself to that chapter. And when Alter Rebbe says in the third paragraph of the introduction of the Tanya that I'm talking to everyone who's reading the Tanya, because the Alter Rebbe was unable, unfortunately, to continue doing Yechidus, private audience. There were so many Chasidim. That's why our Rebbe stopped, one of the reasons, I guess, why he stopped Yechidus in 1980, 81, pretty much. Because Baruch Hashem, there were so many Chasidim, it was impossible. The Rebbe would stay awake for many years, 3 times a week, from approximately 7, 8 p.m. until 7 in the morning, seeing people all night in Yechidus. So the Alter Rebbe says that this book, the Tanya, not what we're holding now, the one that we're referring to, the Tanya is supposed to replace this idea of Yechidus, that everyone can find their soul connection, S-O-U-L, their soul connection with the Alter Rebbe. And it's by Chassidim we know that the Alter Rebbe had in mind every single Yid that's ever going to open the Tanya for generations to come. When he said, I'm speaking to you, that's what he means. I'm speaking to every single person who opened the Tanya. So this is an example. I'm borrowing from that to our scenario over here. We're talking about a sefer, a book, a concept, which is so unique and so soulful, neshama, full of neshama, that is the greatness of the sefer. You want to tell me that it's a good sefer, it's a good book because it was a poetic script, or it looks nice externally, so it's easy to hold, or it's a Kindle, or whatever it is? Or do you want to look at the essence? You want to look at the etzem? That's what I'm taking an example from the Tanya, which is one of the greatest svarim that we have. And from here we can see, hopefully, that we're going to see soon how it applies also to the rest of the Torah. But when we're able to realize that the point of the Sefer, the point of the Torah, the point of the Chasidus, the point of the Tanya, is to connect to our neshama, so that's the main reason why we learn it. Even someone who is unfortunately unable to see, has no vision. Today they have the Tanya in Braille up until chapter 18, which is the first portion of the Tanya. That's called what the Neshama of Mashiach said to the Baal Shem Tov when he had an elevation of his soul. He said, when's Mashiach coming? So the Neshama of Mashiach said, when your well springs will be spread out, chutza, outside. In other words, to the furthest level that ordinarily would not be able to have Chasidus. And that's why the Rebbe said we should translate the Tanya into many languages, including Arabic and all other crazy languages, in order to bring it to as far as possible, even Braille. And so, just to summarize this point before we go on, that it's so important for us to try to zoom in to the etzem, to the essence of what Chassidus is teaching us, and of course by other svarim as well. And that's exactly what the Rebbe says over here. You might have other nations and other books and other systems that claim to teach morality. But because it's human-made, it's naturally going to be mixed with good and bad. It's not pure good. That's the point. It's not pure good. So it's questionable, very questionable, if one can read other books besides for Torah. The Alter Rebbe talks about it in Tanya in chapter 8. That's not for now, that's not the focus for now, but we're talking about in concept, to understand and to know other shitot, other systems. At least we should know that it's not pure. When we learn these shitot, these systems from the Torah, then you can know, you can rest assured that it is tachlit hatov ha'emet, the epitome of good and truth. Let's continue, please, the bottom paragraph of 29. Yes?
You mentioned that each generation has a Moshe.
Yes.
Do we know who those are?
That's a great question. I think I can't go throughout all the generations to know. I would like to believe that it's relatively speaking obvious, because Moshe is a leader. It's not just a great neshama, but it's a special leader, and it's probably would be. I think it would be obvious. In our generation, it's for sure the Rebbe. The Rebbe clearly related and relates to every single person across the board in the Jewish world, in the secular world, even in the general, even in the non-Jewish world. So there's no question that is it's not just a leader. Even Yitro, that suggested to Moshe, as a typical father-in-law that likes to give suggestions to their in-laws, to their son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, he says, "What are you taking the whole thing on your own, the whole burden on your own shoulders? You have to have leaders for groups of 1,000, groups for 100, groups for 50, and even smaller groups of 10. The greater questions, you go to the larger leaders. But Moshe is the ultimate. He is the Moshe, and so seemingly it should be quite obvious that who the Moshe is. That's what I'm guessing. Okay, bottom paragraph of 29. V'kayadua sipor, as it's known, the story mikvot kedushat mori v'chami admor, from the previous Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak. Excuse me. Sheba'achat min nesiotav, that in one of his travelings, hitvakhu kama anashim, there were several people that were debating. V'hibiu deot shonot odot yachas haTorah la'ashitot hamediniyot. They had different opinions about what is the relationship with the Torah and modern political system, or modern political system. V'me'ezom hani maskemet, and with which one Torah agrees. V'chol achad mehem hera makor b'Torah l'shitato, and everyone tried to prove a source for the Torah according to his own opinion, his own system. When they asked the previous Rebbe who was there in his trip, Anna, he answered, HaTorah, our Torah, liyotat tachlit hamet v'atov, because it's the epitome of truth and good. Yeshnam ba kol ha'anyanim hatovim shebachol hashitot. It has all of the good of all of the systems, of all of the opinions. Banogea lachachmot, regarding intellect and wisdom, HaTorah hi hachachma yutena. The Torah is the highest wisdom there is. Kamosh katuv, as it says in the verse, Ki hi chachmatchem uvinatchem le'nei amim. For it, the Torah, is your wisdom and your understanding for the eyes of the nations. So when we're talking about wisdom, that's really what the Torah is wisdom, is chachma. But the Torah is the highest level of wisdom, and we are fortunate as Am Yisrael that we are able to learn the Torah, connect to the Torah, and share the Torah with the world in a way that they realize that this is the true wisdom. Let's turn back to page 28, the bottom paragraph. There is a well-known story about the Rebbe, my saintly father-in-law, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, the 6th Chabad Rebbe, in one of his letters, which illustrates this point. On one of his journeys, he encountered several men who were arguing and expressing different opinions about the relationship of the Torah to political systems, and debating with which system the Torah agreed. Each one of them brought forth as proof a source from the Torah in support of his ideology. When they asked the Rebbe for his opinion on this question, he answered, since the Torah is absolute perfection of truth and goodness, so it contains within itself all of the best ideas which one may find in all ideologies. After all, everything comes from the Torah. It's not that we take the world, we look at it, and then we say, let's fit into the Torah. The contrary. The Torah is the blueprint of the world. So it starts with the Torah. So anything which is good and true, the source comes from the Torah. We know a lot of things that the nations claim to have and claim to have before Torah, before the Jews. It really, the source is in the Torah. They take it from the Torah. There's a great story of the Rebbe Rashab, the father of the previous Rebbe. The 5th Chabad Rebbe is the third picture over here on the steps going upstairs. There was once a great professor that joined him for Shabbos meal. And they had Kiddush, they washed, they sat down for the meal. And the professor shared with the Rebbe a new insight, a new scientific development that they came up with. This is about 120 years ago, 110 years ago. They said they figured out that there's a vein in the head, in the brain, that when you go like this, you pick up your head, then you want to remember something. When you want to think deeply into something, you put your head down, that vein goes down, and that helps you delve deeply into it. So Rabbi Rashab walks over to his bookshelf in his library. He takes out one of the ma'amarim from the second Chabad Rebbe, Rabbi Goldberg, from about 100, maybe 80 years before that, or 100 years before that. And he showed him exactly where it says that in the Sefer. So everything is in the Torah. The question is, when do the scientists and the professors reveal it? At what stage? At what point? But everything is recorded already in the Torah, because the Torah is the blueprint. So you might say that there are different opinions, which really coincides with what I've been saying recently in the difficult political situation over here, that everyone has a point, and everyone has something. Everything in the world has some good. That whatever good in everything always comes from the Torah. The question is, can we sit around the same table? Can we discuss? Can we be friends? And can we share ideas? And hopefully take out the best from each opinion, which is really the Torah, hopefully part of the Torah. Now that we've closed the square brackets, now we're at the third paragraph of page 31. V'lozo bilvad, and not only this, ela shekol hashpa'at hachayut ba'olam, gam ba'olamot alyonim, tluya bediktuk kal shel Torah, is dependent on a very even a light detail of the Torah. In other words, one can say, wow, look at the Torah. The Torah is amazing. Not only is it connected to all of the other inspirations of the secular world, whatever is good, but it's also David HaMelech, actually. This refers to one of the last parts, and all the way to the end of the Tanya, end of the 5th portion, where David HaMelech, in chapter 119, he refers to the Torah as Zmirot, songs. He's trying to compliment the Torah, that the Torah is so sweet to me like song, like a rhythm, I don't know. Zmirot. The songs for Shabbat, Zmirot. Zmirot hayu li chukecha b'veit megurai. When David HaMelech says, when I was going through a difficult time, and I learned your Torah, it was like Zmirot. It was like song. But this is not a compliment. He meant to say it as a compliment, perhaps, but it was not considered a positive thing, what he said. What he was trying to say was that the entire world is dependent on even one detail of the Torah. That's a very shallow way of referring and complimenting the Torah. That's the point that we're trying to say in this year and the previous year. It might be true, and it sounds so cool. Wow. The entire world, the entire solar system, all of the galaxies and everything else is all hanging on one detail of the Torah. The Torah is unlimited. But if we're looking at it from a worldly perspective, it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very shallow way of trying to identify the purity of the Torah. It's so much deeper. The Torah is so much deeper than just having a relationship with this materialistic world out there. It's all physical. It's in a big part unholy. That's what. It's like saying. It's like saying, "Wow, you have a beautiful home, and you can see the boiler room is huge. The boiler room is usually not tiled, without any light, and it looks dusty, and that's how you're going to identify. True, you have to have a big boiler room in order to warm up the whole house. So there's no question that's a good thing. But is that going to identify? Is that going to say, wow, you have such a beautiful home? You want to say the gorgeous dining room, how many bedrooms, how high it is, how many mezuzahs it has. There's so many ways, so many more nicer ways to compliment a person for their home. So when we talk about the Torah, I'm not going to say, oh, the whole world is dependent even on one diktuk and in one detail of the Torah. Because the Torah is much deeper than that. What is the mahut? What is the essence of the Torah? We'll see in the next paragraph. Omnam, however, this is the main paragraph of page 31 and 30. Omnam, however, lo zohi mahuta shel Torah. This is not the real essence of the Torah. It's all of the above is true, but that's not what the Torah is about. Just like we learned in the previous year, that Chassidus has many advantages, but it has one central point, theme, which is the depth of the Torah, the essence, so too, of the Chassidus, so too regarding the whole Torah. What is the essence of the Torah? Ma'uta shel Torah hu mashehi miyuchedet legamri ba'orei Ein-Sof Baruch Hu. It is totally unified with the infinite light, with the light of the infinite God, blessed be He. Hamelubash ba, which is, this light is enclosed in the Torah, betachlit hayichud, in the greatest level of unification. Note that it's similar, a drop different, but it's similar to Chassidus. Chassidus is obviously not a different Torah. It's the same thing, but the words, we read that what's the most important part of Chassidus? That it's drawing down a new light. But the Torah in general is definitely the light of Hashem, which is enclosed in the Torah. This is why the Alter Rebbe says in chapter 5 in the Tanya, he says that when a person learns Torah, not only does the information go inside his brains, but it also hovers over, circulates, it circles the entire, from above, the entire head, entire brain, which is the greatest unification. She'ein yichud kamo nimtza klal mamash mikol tzad upina. There's no such unification in the world. That's unbelievable. Similar to what we read earlier at the beginning of the Tanya, that we spoke about earlier with regards to the introduction of the Tanya. You have regular books and you have holy books. The holy book, because it's a neshama book, I think it's the best way for me to categorize it. Chassidus is part of the Torah, so on a general note, it's the same thing, it's the same point. What's the point? That when you learn Torah, any part of the Torah, especially Chassidus, because that's what I'm saying now is revealed in Chassidus, but any part of the Torah, when you learn the Torah, you are connecting, your neshama is connecting to the Ein Sof, to the infinite God. End of conversation. It's almost as, I'm going to take it to an extreme for a second, it's almost as if it's irrelevant about the information of what it says in the book. Obviously, you can't be like a parrot just saying words. You have to understand what you're saying. No question about that. But I'm just trying to bring a point across. It's almost as if reading the Torah, saying the words of the Torah, it's almost as if it's irrelevant to what information and whether how much you connect to it or not. Just saying the words of the Torah is going to, obviously you have to understand it. I'm just trying to get to the core. By the way, this is why it's so important to learn the Torah by heart. The words. I should mention that there are two ways of learning the Torah by heart. Either the information, the content, or the words, the exact words. There are many details, so we're not going to get into all the details right now. For example, Torah Shebchtav, the written Torah, we're not allowed to learn by heart, but if you say it enough, you'll know it by heart. Mishnah, for example, is the first part of the oral Torah, and it's customary to learn Mishnah by heart. Just walking in the street and saying words of Tehillim, words of Mishnah, words of Torah, that's a great, great bracha. In fact, I'm going to take it to another extreme. The Tanya, just having the Tanya in your home, that itself is a bracha. In other words, of course, you have to read it. But there is a concept, a twist to this, that just having it alone, that itself is a bracha. I'll give an example. We have a custom to learn the Chitat every day. Chitat is an abbreviation for 3 Hebrew letters: Chumash, Tehillim, and Tanya. The portion of the Torah for the day, connected to the portion of the week. Tehillim, divided into 30 days, the part of the month. And Tanya, it's divided to the days of the year. I don't know if you have it, but I have it somewhere for sure. It's actually, I think, in my Tudat Zehut. 1 second. Let me see if I still have it over here. Well, I used to have it here. A micro card, where it has on one card the size of a Tudat Zehut. It was when I first came. This size, the size of a credit card. It has the entire Chumash, Tehillim, and Tanya. If you know the way the Tzurat Hadaf, the way the paragraphs are set up in the Tanya, for example, you can see it if you look really, really closely. If you take I don't know what it's called, this machine with a special light, and you can blow it up, and you can see, but it's tiny. It's on a card. So people say, "Oh, what's the point? You can't read it anyways." That's what I'm trying to bring out. It's the exact point. There's a concept of shmirah, of guarding. There's a whole sikha of the Rebbe about the mezuzah. The mezuzah has to be on the door. But besides from being on the door, there is another idea to the mezuzah, and that's shmirah. There were tzaddikim, the previous Rebbe had a mezuzah on his desk. It's obviously not the mitzvah per se of mezuzah, because the mitzvah means it needs to be on your doorpost in the right spot. But there is another concept of mezuzah, which is shmirah. It guards the person. Just this morning, right after davening, I went to an office building, and it was a new office, and they had a bunch of the 16, 17 mezuzahs, and I took off all the mezuzahs, and we're checking them now. That's a great zechut to be able to make sure that everyone's mezuzah is kosher. But in addition to the literal mitzvah of mezuzah, there's also the concept of shmirah, of guarding. So too, the Rebbe said to have a chitat in your car. There's some amazing stories of miracles, mamash miracles that have happened. And of course, it's there for you to read, and you want to learn, you want to read the Chumash of the day or the Tanya of the day, whatever, then you can do that. I'm just saying, in addition to that, there is the Kedusha. That's what I'm trying to bring out. In Torah, it's the Kedusha that's the Chidush over here. Just about a few months ago, we learned a fascinating mimer about Chanukah. That's exactly what the Greeks tried to uproot, God forbid, by Am Yisrael. They didn't mind if we learned the Torah, so to speak. I'm sure they weren't terribly happy. But they sort of appreciated the intellectual manuscripts of Judaism and essays and different articles and books. I'm sure they appreciated it. They wanted to uproot Lashkicham Toratecha. They wanted us to forget that it's God's Torah. So one can say, big deal. The meeting learn Torah. The answer is yes, a big deal. To take Hashem, or in the context of what we're learning now, to take the neshama out of a Torah book, you're taking out the mahut. You're taking away the etzem. You're taking the essence out of the Torah. And that's a no-no. Because that you're taking out the essence. You're taking out you might have the text, but you don't know if you're missing the kedusha, if you're missing the Ein Sof, if you're missing the infinite God, then what are you left with? Some information? What's information without the core, without the essence of the book? So I'm going to say it again because it's so powerful. The second half of the first line of this paragraph, Amna. It goes like this. Ma'utashal Torahu, what is the essence of the Torah? Mashihim yuchedet legamri ba'orein sof baruchu. That is totally unified with the infinite light of Hashem, blessed be He. Hamelubashba, which is enclosed inside the Torah, betachot hayichud, in the greatest level of unification. Unbelievable. These are words that should be framed on the wall. Or they have these nice the silver letters you put on the wall, Imesh Kachech Yerushalayim, or Birkat Habayit, the blessing for the home. They should have these. They should make these words. Should be in our face every time we come into the Chabad center. Let's continue. And therefore, since all of the worlds are like nothingness, all of the big, massive worlds that you probably know much, much better than me on what science teaches you, how great the world is and everything else. It's like nothingness, mamish, literally. Legabei Ein Sof Baruch Hu, in comparison to the infinite God, blessed be He. Kenhem Gam Gabi Torah. So too, also in reference to the Torah. They're nothing, or nothingness. Almost nothing, close to nothing, pretty much nothing. Overall, you can rest assured that it's nothing. But the guy that came to court, and he says, this guy hit me. So he says, what do you want from me? This guy's a nothing. I took a nothing, and I hit the nothing with a nothing. So I did nothing. So the judge says, no problem. We'll take a nothing and hit this nothing, and hit just nothing. With a nothing, with a nothing. The whole world is kila, is as nothing, garnished, nada. It says nothing in comparison to Hashem, the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Also the Torah. Because the Ein Sof is enclosed, quote unquote, in the Torah, in every word of the Torah HaKadoshah. In my videos also, when I talk about the Torah, I try to add the word Torah HaKadoshah, because it's the Kedusha that's missing. And even in Eretz Yisrael, unfortunately, there's so much secularism that it's sometimes you feel that the Kedusha is missing, and I try to put in that word. It's one word. Just adding one word, but instead of saying just the word Torah, I say Torah Kedoshah, the Holy Torah, because that brings out, that magnifies what is the mahut, what is the essence of the Torah. V'lazot, and therefore, ein l'shabcha klal b'tilat chayut kol olamot. there's no point in praising the Torah. Wow, you're so amazing. The whole world, the whole solar system is dependent on one little detail in the Torah. It's like nothing. Like we said earlier. Ella. So what should we be praising? What is the greatness of the Torah? Mitzad nekudataha atzmit. When you look at the essential point, the essential theme, shemiyuchedet hi ba'orei insof baruch hu, that the Torah is totally unified with the infinite light of Hashem, blessed be He. So therefore, kolelet hi b'meila, automatically it also includes this detail, many other details. Gam et kol haminei ma'alot u'shleimut b'shaba'olam, all the other different advantages and greatnesses in the world. V'al yadash v'al tachayut, and through that they get the world gets its life force from the Torah. Let's read this in the English. Hopefully that will clarify for us. Nevertheless, the fourth paragraph in page 30. Nevertheless, all of these profound attributes and superior virtues still do not constitute the essence of the Torah. The essence of the Torah is that it is completely united. Here's the word that you have to frame in the quote, in the quotation. Completely united with the infinite light of the Ein Sof, which is enclosed within it in a perfect and total unity. Isn't that amazing? A real quote. Words, in Hebrew there's a phrase, Kol milah b'sela. Every word is like a rock. Is so real, is so true. This quote is unbelievable. It's from the Alter Rebbe. Therefore, since all of the worlds are as absolute nothingness in relation to the Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof is enclosed in the Torah and every word in the Torah, so are they also in relation to the Torah. And hence, in this light, it is no praise whatsoever to extol the Torah as the vivifying life force of all worlds, since they are reckoned as nothingness itself. Rather, so what is the essence? What is the mahut? What is the most important part of the Torah? By virtue of its quintessential point, which is its union with the infinite light of the Ein Sof, the Torah automatically includes every kind of superior virtue and perfection found in the world. But that doesn't categorize the Torah. All these details are only an outcome of the Torah, only like a side point. And by virtue of this same quintessential point, the Torah is also the world's vivifying flow of life, etc. Amazing. Let's continue. The bottom paragraph of 31. Achen, however, af shekol chelkei haTorah nekudam atzmit hi mashem. Now we're going to see how within the Torah, which is a similar point to Chassidus, Chassidus is the inner part of the Torah. When it comes to Chassidus, this is even stronger. It's a similar point. You have to narrow into the essence. But by Chassidus, the essence is even clearer and emboldened. Let's see it inside. Achen afsha kol chalkei haTorah nekudatam atzmit hi mashem yuchadim b'orei Ein Sof baruch hu. Even though by all portions of the Torah being part of the Holy Torah, the quintessential point is that they are unified with the infinite God, blessed be He. B'chol zeh, nevertheless, ikar nekuda zo mitbateh b'torat haChasidut. The main point of this is brought out, is expressed in the teachings of Chassidus. The Kamor, as I said earlier in the previous shir, B'hamaimer banogea laChasidus shehi davka hamshachas Ein Sof shnimtza b'radla. That davka Chasidus is the Ein Sof which is found in the Reshit L'At Yada, in the beginning, which is not even known. It's the essence of Hashem. We don't even have a way of defining it, as we said earlier in the previous shir. Ki kol chalkei haTorah b'chinat ha'Ein Sof shebem mitlabeshu be'ezet tziur. Tziur hamagdiru mevateh gitarois mahuto shel chilek. Yiddish is always the best. Mahuto shel chilek zeh. I like when the Rebbe's sticking like two words in Yiddish. Just some words you can't express it in any other language. Mahuto shel chilek zeh. This we're going to see soon in the continuation of the Maimer. We're going to go through different parts of the Torah, and we're going to show how Chassidus brings out the beautiful light not only of Chasidus, in them, in that individual part of the Torah. It's unbelievable. I'm very excited and looking forward to learning with you the continuation. So true, every part of the Torah has the Ein Sof. Whatever you learn, you're connecting to the Ein Sof. But it comes into some kind of tziyur, some kind of form which sort of categorizes it and takes it out of its purity. It's hard for me to explain it. The best way to explain it is just to wait until we learn, you'll be able to understand it. V'tziyur zeh shel chelek zeh Torah zeh pshat remez rush sod ma'alim hu al pshitot ein sof hamlubar. Well, beautiful. This is the point. This form of that specific part of the Torah sort of covers over, conceals in a way, a concealing garment for the Ein Sof. So, for example, you have different ways that a person can dress. You can dress. First of all, the fact that a person, a regular garment, it covers over one's body. Or if someone wants to cover over another garment, you put on a different garment. Or there's a joke in one of the yeshivas in New York that the guys run around with their shirt, one side is out and one side is tucked in. Why is that? So they say the part that is tucked in is because the hole in the shirt, and the part that's tucked out is because the hole in the pants. So it works out. That's whatever. It's sort of an inside joke for this specific yeshiva that people know. But the point of a cloth is to cover over. Now you could have, depending on what you're doing, you can if you're doing a sport, or if you're going to a shir or Shabbat clothes, each one covers over is a garment, but at the end of the day it conceals. On one hand, it's a good thing that there's a cloth, because without the cloth you can't go into the street. Sometimes with a certain clothes you can't go into certain events, because this event is a black tie event, and this event is a jeans event, and this event, each one is different. So on one hand, having a cloth helps you be revealed. On the other hand, you can't get away from the fact that it covers over, and it doesn't allow the essence to come out. So that's by all the different, that's only a mashal, only a metaphor for what we're learning now. We're learning now about different parts of the Torah. So the infinite light of Hashem comes down into the world, but then it comes down into different forms, into different tzir form. That's the word. The next paragraph, however, the Torah, the teachings of Chasidus, since it's not categorized in any form, the hatziurim, quote unquote, the forms that we do have, that Chasidus does reveal to us, kalavush tachlifem v'yachlofu, like a garment that you, Hashem, will change and they will be changed. Shalachem kolelet hi, it's not a real garment. It's not a garment that stays. It's a garment which is very, very shallow, very light, and therefore it's easily changed. It's not a real concealment. A real concealment is bolted in. But a cloth which is, it can be easily changed, that's more compared to Chasidus. Shalachem koleleti et kol dalad achalakim pshatim mezrushot shabatorah umechayeh otam k'dilahalan, as we're going to see later, that the beautiful light of Chasidus infuses inspiration and neshama and insight into all, not only its own. Not only Chasidus is amazing on its own, but it also inspires and infuses light into the other parts of the Torah, and it makes them more beautiful. Because it's so essential, it's so etzendik. So whatever tzir, whatever form there is, it doesn't really conceal the essence of Chasidus. That's why learning the teachings of Chasidus is so beautiful, because it helps us both connect to the amazing concepts that Chasidus discusses, and also it enables us to connect to the different parts of the Torah that we know or that we're going to learn, And sometimes you learn Chassidus and then you learn a Mishnah. You learn, and you say, oh, now I understand the Mishnah better. Now I understand the Rashi better. Now I understand the Pasuk better. Because the beautiful light of Chassidus is the etzem shines. The essence shines through it. Other parts of the Torah, we know that it's true. We know that we're connecting to Hashem. We know that we're connecting to the Ein Sof. But it's not always clear. By Chassidus it's clear. Because the whole content, the whole concept of Chassidus is to project Hashem's Or Ein Sof, the light, the infinite light of Hashem. So wherever you turn, pretty much every page, we're talking about Hashem. We're talking about the greatness of Hashem. Even when we're talking about the Sfirot, what are we basically saying? That the Sfirot are a funnel through which Hashem's Ein Sof light can come to us. And B, we're basically saying, true that there's the Sfirot, but the essence of Hashem is higher. And then when we talk about the higher Sfirot, we have hopefully even a deeper appreciation. Wow, the Or Ein Sof is even higher than that. And then we talk about a whole discourse about the Keter. Once again, what's the point of talking about the Keter? To bring out how the Ein Sof, the essence of Hashem, is so essential that it's even higher than the Keter. So it's unbelievable how we're always constantly focusing on the neshama, the soul that Hashem gives us, that we and the connection that we can connect to Hashem through learning the teachings of Chassidus. Yasher koach. This class has been dedicated generously by my brother Rabbi Goldberg in memory of our late grandmother Chaya Sarah Bat Yecheskel.